Okay, back at it on the Mercedes project. The goal for today is to clean up this guy so we can put this guy in. So once we get the engine bay cleaned up, we can marry the trans to the block and start mocking it up. Okay, so you can see we got daylight showing up through the engine bay, and we got a nice clear shot that's degreased up until here, so don't look past there. And we can see daylight through the existing shifter hole. And we also cut out this trans brace here, kind of a butcher job there, but I'll clean it up later. But the biggest thing was just to try and start measuring back from the firewall to where the shifter currently lands. If we look over to the super, we got about 32 inches from this bell housing face to where the end of the trans, so roughly where the existing shifter comes up. That pushes us up, so the firewall would land here if we were going to reuse the existing shifter hole, trying to stick that up through there. So we got a couple different knobs we can play with. Really, we have another tripod assembly that we could use here. So I zapped off the tripod shifter assembly off the transmission. So now I'm just going to measure up these holes here and 3D print just a little feature. So I got a little bit of a rise. I need to go through and clear the shift selector here. But just make a big blackout plate out here just so I have a little bit more clearance when I'm finagling this in and out of the engine bay. I got these new center finding threaded studs I'm going to try out. A little overkill, not the intended purpose here, but they thread in just like that. But the nice thing is then I'll have a nice fine point. I can measure the center of each one of these holes better than trying to eyeball it with the calipers and find the center or measure from edge to edge or anything like that. So just do it! Nice and probably overbuilt. Made it all the wall thickness is 8mm, so it's super burly, but I didn't want it cracking and let junk in while I was mocking up the trans. Okay, this is the first time this engine and trans have seen light. So you can see I had to wheel it out of my workshop here in order to assemble it. It's too big of an assembly to wheel out. So I'm going to pop this trans onto the motor, hopefully for the last time, and then spin the lift around and then start trying to dive it into the engine. You see I made these little brackets here to grab onto the leveler. I got one for the intake side and one for the exhaust side, hoping I can just grab it on a chain and make it a little bit easier, and then yeah, knock on wood, it slips right in.
Time to do some sketchy shit. Do-da, do-da, hope I get away with it. Oh, do-da day.
Okay, got the motor and the trans roughed in. Obviously it's not anywhere near where it needs to finally rest. I got a block of wood in there that's raising the bottom part of the oil pan off by about 3/8, and underneath I got a jack and a board holding up the tail of the trans. But yeah, it's roughed in. Obviously I want to be able to slide it back, so I'm not super stoked to start having to mess with the subframe, but I think that's probably the route I need to go. I'm really less motivated to start messing with the oil pan. So yeah, there's two things here, the subframe and then the steering linkage. I have to figure something out, but hopefully I can slide it over, drop it down a little bit, and then gain a whole bunch of room on the front here, gain some space here, especially if we hang the turbo on this side, and we'll go from there. Let's see on the bottom side. So underneath we actually have a really good clearance. I'm pretty stoked about this. We got pretty good clearance on either side. Obviously when I shift it back it's going to tighten up a little bit more, but I don't think there's going to have to be much massaging, if at all, to clear for the trans. we have a little bit of way to go. So normally this is where the shifter and the assembly goes, right on the back side of the trans. Here's where the factory shifter comes in. Obviously it's for auto, but yeah, we have a good, I don't know, 8-9 inches from well, probably closer to a foot off of here. So I'm thinking if we come back the 4 or 5 inches this way, then we use something like the tripod assembly shifter here, it'll line us up and maybe get us roughly here. So we only have to open up the hole a little bit on the front side of here, and then yeah, we're not shifting through the front of the dash. Also note the mounting for the trans. Again, if we shift it back, I think we'll be in pretty good shape. So there's these threaded holes for the normal trans mount on the factory car. So I think, again, if we shift it back, I can make some bracket that catches these holes here, catches these holes, and put some urethane bushings in there, keep the vibrations down. And then, yeah, super happy about that as well, because I can use this factory provisions here. I don't want to try and grind and weld and do anything on the bottom side here. So all in all, I think this is a good first step. This is where we're in the second video here. But yeah, super exciting.